What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a video request. I have three different videos I'm going to do today as far as just a guesstimate of how these three legends would play in today's game. The first one's going to be Pete Maravich. I might have done a video like this before. Probably because this is one that comes up a lot, but this is requested again. How would Pete Maravich, how good would he be in today's NBA? Now, of course, Pete Maravich was a pioneer as far as guard play. He was one of the first, quote unquote, big guards of his era. Now, of course, it's commonplace now to have guards 6'5", 6'6", that can handle the rock. You got guards bigger than that now. But Pete Maravich, before him, most guards were around 6'1", 6'2", 6 feet tall. Oscar, of course, was an outlier in the 60s, but Pete was 6'6" or 6'5", over 200 pounds, and had moves that we hadn't seen before at the NBA level. Now, of course, it's commonplace now to see guys do what Pete Maravich was doing. But to be honest with you, there's some things that he did instinctively that we still don't see guys do regularly. He was the first guy to do the behind the back dribbles, the crossover in the NBA level. But some of the things he did, the palm and ball, no look passes, most guys still haven't really perfected that. Even today, it's still not something you see all the time. One of the guys, of course, two players, I should say, who were influenced by Pete Maravich. One was Magic Johnson with the no-look passes. Isaiah Thomas was also influenced by Pete Maravich with the ball handling ability. So Pete's playmaking and his scoring were incredible. Now, I got to be honest with you. Although Pete Maravich had a Hall of Fame career, it was not exactly what everybody thought it would be. He scored a little bit less than 16,000 points, if I remember correctly. I think it's 15,948. He averaged 24.4 points per game. But he had a career that was besieged with injuries, and at times he could be inconsistent. And in his 10-year career, he only went to playoffs 26 times. He had flaws. I'm not going to make it sound like he was Superman. He had flaws. He was turnover prone, which is to be expected for a guy that played at that fast pace that he played and with the high risk passes and the dribbling moves. You're going to have error doing that. That's what people don't understand. It's one thing if you're playing at a fast pace and you're getting 4 turnovers a game, but you're also connecting on, 11 or 12 assists or more a night. That's forgivable. If you have 4 turnovers, but you're going out there and creating what you're playmaking and passing, 30, 40 points off of assists or getting guys in position to score. But anyway, I'm going to another whole area. If he played today, and I hope this isn't hyperbole to some people, but I think the closest guy that comes to mind is Steph Curry, with a little bit of Trey Young, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Trey isn't the exact best. Yeah, Steph Curry. Steph Curry, but with a little bit less efficiency and more scoring outbursts. Um, I make the comparison to Steph Curry because they're both great ball handlers. They're not conventional point guards, which is one of the arguments I make about Steph all the time. Steph can play make, but he's more of a combo guard, more of a scorer. That's Pete. Pete was a great scorer, but Pete was generally seen, along with Rick Barry now, as the best shooters in the game. I give the edge to Rick Barry because Rick Barry was basically a 90% free throw shooter, whereas Maravich was more around 81, 80%, 82% from the line, which is really good. Um, so when you look at the fact that Pete was putting up 24 points a night, won a scoring title in 76-77, had a 68-point game against a Knicks team, although they weren't in their prime. They were still a good team. And he averaged, about 6 assists a night, maybe 5 rebounds a night. Well, if you put shooters around Pete Maravich, because if he's playing today, he's going to have scorers and more shooters around him. So the floor is going to be opening up. So he's going to have more room to do his thing. I can't help but think with a 3-point shot, and Pete was known for being a guy that was one of the first dudes that could consistently make shots from 25, 30 feet out when there was no 3-point line. I can't help but think that he would average more around 29, maybe 30 points a night in today's NBA. I mean, 5 or 6 3-pointers a night. I think that's a fair bet for Pete, with some seasons making 7 or 8 threes a night. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. And the reason why I say that is because unlike Steph, who can take a lot of shots, but Steph is not a aggressive scorer at times. Like, he does score when need be, when he gets into a rhythm. Pete was more of an aggressive scorer in the vein of a James Harden. I kind of wanted to say that he would be a mixture between James Harden and Steph, because James Harden is more aggressive as far as shooting. And I think Pete would be a guy that would, if healthy, would lead the NBA in shot attempts. I think he would shoot, instead of 44% like he shot in the 70s, more around 46%. I think in today's NBA, I think he would take a lot of threes. I think he would get to the foul line a little bit more. So I could see him averaging 30, 31, 32, maybe even some seasons, especially if he's on the bad team. I could see the efficiency going down to 44%, 45%, but I could still see him having these burst games where, man, he's the one guy I could see having 70, 80-point games. He's the one guy I could see. Look, when he scored 68 points against the Knicks, keep in mind there was no 3-point line. Had there been one, he probably would have had 75 points, right? And remember, he fouled out with 3 minutes to go in that game. So when I say that he could have scored 80 points a game, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. This is a guy that averaged 44 points a game in college, albeit his father was coaching him, but Pete was making those shots. So, yeah, I think Pete would be even more dynamic. I mean, this is an era that, of course, caters to players who are perimeter guys, who are ball handlers, who are shooters. who could play make, and Pete fits this era like a glove. So yeah, I think that while obviously the level of guard play has vastly improved since the 1970s overall, uh, but Pete was the originator. And you could also make the same argument that if Pete was so ahead of the curve in the 1970s, well, wouldn't he still be ahead of the curve now? He'd be the premier ball handler up there with Kyrie Irving. He would be one of the premier scorers in the game. He'd be one of the premier shooters. He'd be an above average playmaker, a great playmaker. I do think that he would turn the ball over a lot. I think he would average approaching 4 turnovers a night. But what they get away with now, as far as dribbling and um, you know what I'm saying, not being called for travels, and yeah, and what gets called assists now. Yeah, if he was averaging 6 assists back then, I could see him averaging 9, 10 assists, maybe perennially leading the league in turnovers. That'll be a knock against him, like Russell Westbrook, right? But I don't think he would make as many blunderous turnovers as Russ has. But he would have a lot of turnovers. But I think he would average 9, 10 assists. I think he would be putting up 30 points a game. On a good team, more around 27. Would he win a championship? I think that depends on the GM, the franchise he's playing with, and who they have around him. Honestly, I think you need a rebounding machine. I think you need a rugged rebounder on a team with Pete to clean up some of those misses. I'm just saying, he's going to have bad nights. When you're a shooter, you're going to have some bad nights. You need some rebounders, and you need some defensive guys, because Pete was never known for his defense. That was not something that he was known for. And but I still think he'd be a hell of a goddamn player. And man, that'd be some fun basketball to watch Pete Maravich in today's game. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.